was looking at the list of people attending, and I got the impression that the majority of people are not from health and social care. Can I just see a hand of people who work in health and social care? Well, there's a few. Well, there's a few more. That's good. Because it's interesting, because I think the subject I'm going to touch on is because it's talking about older people, it's talking about dementia, you can almost bet, and it's talking about care homes, that it'll have touched most people's lives here, whether it's a relative, your parents or your grandparents. And you've seen so many things go wrong with social care systems for older people, and particularly older people with dementia. I don't need to sort of to touch on those, but so hopefully this will show that there are other ways of supporting people with dementia, and it isn't always about, as we said before, about money. It's not starting about money. It's much more about culture and attitudes. Of course, the title, We Are Family, because this is the key, really. One of my biggest bugbears about social care is we've become increasingly detached from people, increasingly professional, and often the regulatory system has been built around looking at all the sort of, the size of the room, the curtains, the carpet. But the danger is sometimes the people are being lost in the whole process. So very much I want to challenge this hotel model of care home, which is so prevalent. And you see it, don't you, when you walk in and they're all immaculate and they've got the flowers and all this sort of stuff. But somehow they haven't got soul, they haven't got community. And I'm lucky to have Laura Jones with me from My Home Life. We've been linking very strongly with My Home Life Cymru. It's an Age Cymru initiative promoting quality of life in care homes. It's all about care homes as communities. I think that's the key theme. My Home Life has 8 key themes. 3 of them I think really relate very much to the work today. One is about maintaining people's identity and the sense of who they are. The other is creating community, and the other is shared decision making. So there are other themes, but these are particularly 3 important themes. Okay, so the challenge, and it's great when you see all this community development, but for me in health and social care, I'm thinking, but what about the people with complex long-term conditions? How can we involve them in the co-production sort of agenda, really? And there's a real problem in health and social care, because health, all of the sort of movements around health have been based on the curative model. So the best health work, and all those most skilled practitioners work in curative health. If you can't be curative, then you look at rehabilitation. Great. But then you get these other people who can't be cured, who cannot be rehabbed, and it's almost like, and Mike Nolan told me this terrible word, he says it's a Cinderella service, really, and it's called residual care, was one of the phrases used for these people who can't be rehabbed. So we're saying, surely that's not right, is it? We're marginalising this vast group of people and delivering residual care. And the person who inspired me is Dame Cicely Saunders, and anybody should look up her work, because she's the founder of the hospice movement. And this is a quote from her: "You matter because you are you, and you matter to the end of your life. We will do all we can, not only to help you die peacefully, but also to live until you die." And that's what we say. And with people with dementia, they're not elderly mentally infirm, they are people living with dementia, and that's the important thing, that we make sure that they continue to live. Now, I wanted to put this little slide. It seems like a sudden change of subject. This is Nathan Stevens, a Paralympic athlete, and this was a quote from him. And I think this is really important. This said something to me. "When I lost my legs, it was right, what can we all still do together? Still play football and rugby with my friends, sitting on the floor as a goalkeeper, scooting myself around with a rugby ball in my hands." And what this message told me about Nathan was choice and control, which is really important, and we spoke about that, and you see it all the time. It's the key mantra at the moment about promoting choice and control. But for Nathan, that is important, but equally important is belonging and being able to make a positive contribution. Time for a turnaround. I love this quote. Somebody gave me from the Encyclopedia Britannica. "For Wales, see England." So I'm really encouraged that in Wales we are having our own Social Services Wales Bill. Anybody say hooray? And it's much more co-productive, and it's much more soulful, and it's less consumerist and market-driven. So here's a quote from Saint Gwenda Thomas, who I love because she's got a heart and passion for the right things. "We believe that the label personalisation has become too closely associated with a market-led model of consumer choice." And so again, in social care, we are definitely looking at more around co-production, shared responsibility and community. And this has really helped us in health and social care to start to look at the stuff that goes on in communities first. For me in Swansea, linking up with some of the community work, I say fantastic, it's a different language, so it's been really helpful for me to make those links. And I also because again, if you say, who are the champions of independent living? Mike Oliver, he's again another superhero of the disability rights. And it's a really important quote, this, I think. If I can read the quote, because I love it, because he always speaks exactly as he thinks, Mike. "There's always been a distinction between what we mean by independent living in Britain and what they mean in the States. In America, it's organised around self-empowerment, individual rights, and the idea that the land of the free and the home of the brave, all that, individuals, if they're given access under the law and the Constitution, can be independent. But in contrast, in Britain, independent living entailed collective responsibilities for each other and a collective organisation. It wasn't about individual self-empowerment, it was about individuals helping one another. And what he goes on to say is if we actually take that as our driving force, then it does make us totally rethink the way we deliver. And I think Ruth's been saying that through the day. I listened to Radio 4 quite a bit, and there was a thing called All in the Mind, a mental health programme. It's fantastic. There was this guy called Kip Williams, who was a psychologist in the States, and he was talking the whole programme about ostracism. Of course, I come from social work, I don't do psychology, but he was talking about this concept of ostracism. And he said, I was walking the dog through a park, and then a stranger comes the other way and says, good morning, how are you? And they walk straight past. And he said, I got so cross. I was really angry. I wanted to turn and punch the person because they didn't say hello. They didn't say hello back. And he said, well, that's a bit stupid because they're strangers, aren't they? Then why should I be feeling like that when, somebody, a complete stranger? He started doing some psychological studies, and he got 3 people in a room throwing balls between each other. And he told 2 of them, you 2 keep throwing and ignore the other person. And he monitored the impact that had on people's emotional sense of how they felt. They got really angry, really cross, and desperate to be back in the group. And he said, and then he took it further and he did it electronically, so like kids doing these games, over the internet and everything, and the same reactions were stirred. And he linked it back to the fact that we've forgotten sometimes we really are social beings, like a flock of birds or a shoal of fish. We really are interdependent, and we can't survive on our own. We need to belong and feel like connected. And he said in nature, you see, what happens is if you're a bird and you're excluded from the crowd, you will die. So he says we're hardwired to really react strongly about being excluded. And this really struck a chord with me. I thought, gosh, that's right. Because people with dementia, out of all the people who can feel excluded, are the most excluded. They find it the hardest to make connections with other people because emotionally and spiritually they're the same as all of us, but they can't work things out very well, and they can't always recognise things. So, and they're a bit odd. People think they're a bit odd because they don't sort of say the same things we'll say, and we tend to live in a very cognitive world, don't we? Everything's around what we think. It's a fallacy, really, because it's the feelings that matter most. But honestly, people with dementia feel marginalised. And what happens to people with dementia, when they feel marginalised, they start behaving in difficult ways, but we call it challenging behaviour. So what does that mean? Oh, that means they need an EMI nursing home placement. So what we do is you take these people who are reacting quite naturally to feeling excluded, and then we put all the blame on them and say, you've got challenging behaviour, you need to be in an EMI-registered nursing home. So then we plonk them into this so-called EMI residential nursing home, which often hasn't got the skills to actually understand what really people need, because it's all built around a sort of clinical model of nursing. And I think that's totally wrong. And in Swansea, what we'd worked with health and with the Alzheimer's Society, we said, if you treat people as people and you make them feel connected and part of community, and then perhaps some of these challenging behaviours will drop away and they can be supported at a lower level of service. And that's the philosophy we took. And what we're finding now is we're able to support people with dementia in a residential care home, not in an EMI nursing home, whatever that is. Hero, Edgar Karl, I'm glad we all talk about him because he came to Swansea, and again, I was just by chance because I wouldn't have known him from anyone, and I happened to be in Gorsina and he was speaking, and I was like gobsmacked with this guy. And I love this quote: the world of helping others in need is built around one-way transactions, and with the best intentions, one-way transactions often send 2 messages unintentionally. They say, we have something you need, but you have nothing we need or want or value. And they also say the way to get more help is by coming back with more problems. And that really spoke to me, and like the concept of care, it's a one-way street. You're the person giving care to the person in need, and it's wrong. And we've been doing some research with the Joseph Rowntree, I haven't got time to go into it, called Not a One-Way Street, which is about older people with complex conditions giving and receiving support. And again, I could share you more information about that later. Here's a lovely example. This would cause a real stir, I tell you, amongst the some of my health and safety people or the POVA people, because oh my God, what's going on there in a care home? Two people with dementia kissing. No, don't go there. This is Hojway, which is a fantastic model of dementia care. It totally rethink the way you support people with dementia. You start with who they are, and you let them be who they are, and your job is to get around and behind them to do that, and I love that. But another guy who really inspired me is Tom Kitwood, who is a passionate champion, really, of person-centred dementia care. Unfortunately, he's died now, but his legacy is grown and grown. And he was inspired by a theologian, actually, called Martin Buber, who had this lovely phrase, all real living is meeting. And I thought, that's a good, because it's about this connecting, isn't it? It's about making connections with each other. And I thought that, like at home with my wife, we don't connect that often because I'm out at work and she's at work, but those little moments when you're together are really important, and they let you get through the day, don't they? And sometimes it isn't 24-hour care you need. It's just you need these moments of connection with other people. I'm okay, I'm connected, and I'm all right. But he says what happens in the world, whether it's people or things, there are two ways of relating to people and things. One is an I-it relationship, and the other is an I-thou. And the best way to explain it is a mug. If you get a mug out of the cupboard and you have a cup of tea and you drop it, and you think, oh dear, I've dropped it, I'll get another one out of the cupboard. Because it's just, you've got loads of them, you've got a set of 6 from Asda or something. So if you drink that, you've got an I-it relationship with the mug. But if you've got a mug that your daughter gave you or your mother gave you and you drop it and it's irreplaceable, then what impact does that have on you? It makes you upset, doesn't it? It hurts you. It actually, you make yourself vulnerable when you have I-thou relationships. Now this is one of the key elements we think about getting proper co-production and relationship-centred care, we call it in dementia, is we don't look at the emotional impact of the good staff actually connecting in I-thou relationships with the people in their care. So we're doing some research with Swansea University about the emotional labour of caring, because we sometimes beat up these staff in hospital or in a care home and say, why on earth did they treat the people like that? But nobody has ever looked at the well-being of the staff in that situation. So we think it's key to person-centred care is looking at the emotional well-being of the staff who actually have to deliver the care. Okay. So, and this is summed up in again, another hero who should be in the CoPro network, and I'd have him here any data so you can read of me. He's Mike Nolan. I don't know if any of you are nurses, but Mike Nolan is a professor of gerontological nursing at Sheffield University, and he's great because he comes down and because he cares about what he does, he doesn't charge. He'll say, don't, as long as you don't tell Sheffield University, because they'll want the money, because he says universities are all money-making businesses at the moment. But he says, I'll come down, and he's run some workshops with us, and he's been an inspiration. And he has this concept of relationship-centred care rather than person-centred care, which you'll see the difference, why we've got that in a minute. And also the idea that you have to create what you call an enriched environment of support. Now that would apply in a community development setting, I think, or in a care home. He says, before you look at all this outcome-based planning, which is very popular, isn't it, at the moment, you've got to get the right environment for that to grow, to sow those seeds into. And what he says is, this concept of an enriched environment is one in which, in terms of a care home setting, both service users or residents, family members who come in and out, and frontline staff. So it's all three, they're interdependent. All three of those groups need to have a sense of security, a sense of continuity, a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, a sense of achievement, and a sense of significance that they matter. Now some of these you think, oh yeah, that's straightforward, isn't it, for older people? You would do that, wouldn't you, in a care home? But often we don't. David Sherd, another one of my heroes of co-creation, would say, he asked this nurse, he said, what's your job? And she said, bed, bath and body work. I mean, it's just terrible, isn't it? No, your job is not bed, bath. It's about creating a sense of security, continuity, belonging, purpose and identity for the residents, really. But importantly, what are we doing around these for the people who work in the sector? So anybody here, if you're a manager of a hospital, where's your sense of significance for your frontline nursing staff? And what Mike's done has been using the senses framework to look at culture change, and I think Hazel said that earlier on. It's all about this is about culture change in hospital settings. So if any of you work in health settings, Mike's work around culture change, and it links to some of Wintad's work in Cardiff, is really good on that. But this is the senses framework, and we sum it up in Swansea, and all the staff get this lovely boat. Sure glad the hole isn't at our end. That says it all, doesn't it? Because with these we said, are these the social workers and these are the home care staff who aren't paid travel time and basic minimum wage? Or is this the senior managers with their performance sort of charts, and these are the frontline staff trying to fill in all the performance data? It's just not going to work, is it? The boat's going to sink. So the whole concept of an enriched environment is where everybody's well-being is looked at interdependently. One of the key things is they're going to make local authorities have a statutory duty to address well-being, and go, oh no, we can't do that, no. Honestly, you'd be amazed some of the reaction it's getting, but I think it's fantastic. And but what is well-being? And if you look at the research around well-being, broadly, there are two aspects of well-being. One is short-term pleasures, so walking in the park, watching a football game, really good. But actually, all the research says the things that make you live longer and healthier are longer term satisfactions which are linked to meaning and purpose. So it's actually the pleasures are important, but it's actually having meaning and purpose that actually gets you through the day. Because this lady in the old model of the care home would be sat there and we would have the hotel model. So the hotel model only looks at short-term pleasures really. You're there and we'll make it pleasant for you. Sit there, we'll give you choice and control. Do you want marmalade or do you want jam on your toast? Oh, marmalade please. There you go, you've got choice and control. You're a happy person. No, because this person with dementia, she's much happier making the toast for the staff. But the staff at first said, we can't do that. We had one guy who'd always made the tea in the office for the girls in his office. The first thing he did in care home, he said, can I make the tea? No, you sit down, we'll make you the tea. No. He said to the staff, no, your job is to say, yes, thank you. You make the tea. And when he gives you the tea, you say, that's the best cup of tea I've had all day. And you can imagine how that makes that guy feel. So it's this meaning and purpose that we've got to put back into the life in people in care homes. And terrible, isn't it? Pleasures are important. And I love this quote from Cicely Saunders again, isn't it? It's fantastic. A hospital would insist on a strict diet for a dying diabetic patient. We serve chocolate cake. It's great, isn't it? So pleasure, I'm not saying pleasures aren't important, and I think that some of the elements of the hotel model are really good, and I'm like that. You know, we all like nice things, but it's got to be more than that. And the person who most profoundly affected me on that sense of meaning and purpose is Viktor Frankl. If anybody hasn't read his book, I would definitely recommend reading it. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. And this guy was a psychotherapist, but he was in a concentration camp during the war, and he saw what happened to people. You can't imagine the things he saw. But he said some people were crushed by it, and other people survived. They managed to get through. And he said he tried to work out why could some people survive and others not survive, and it just crushed them. And it was often where they could do something kind to somebody next to them. So it was if it was sharing their last piece of bread with the person next to them, that gave somebody a reason to carry on. And that's his quote: those who have a why to live for can bear with almost any how. And I think that is a fundamental principle. Sometimes if you've got the most advanced dementia or complex conditions, but if you feel your life has some kind of purpose and you can actually make a difference to somebody else, it gives you the energy to carry on. So I think it's a really important sort of a great book to read. And it's not long, it's about $6.99 on Amazon. So what have we done in Swansea? We've started with an in-house care home and some of our partners in the independent sector who are doing similar work, linking with My Home Life Cymru, and also Gwalia now. I'm really pleased because Gwalia is a very big social care provider in West Wales. They really want to develop this model, and they've just got go ahead for some really interesting dementia development service work, but I haven't got time to go into that now. But what you have to do is you promote this family culture, and the bizarre thing is, like eating together, and anybody who works in learning disability would say, well, we do that, but you wouldn't believe in older people. It's very much, the older people sit there, the staff serve out the food, you think, well no, stop that, sit down and eat the food with the people, eat together. And even more bizarrely, could you even consider to share the same toilets? You're thinking, what? So, because what we have is staff toilets and resident toilets, and you say, well, are those the clean ones and those are the dirty ones? I mean, what's that about? And so the other thing would be really clear, and it's this DNA or this blueprint you need, have a strong value base, which is the co-production value base. We've used a thing called VIPS framework, which, again, I haven't got time to go into, but it's a really simple, you can have it in one hand, model of person-centred dementia care. It's about valuing everybody, taking an individualised approach that recognises uniqueness of everybody, that sees the world from the perspective of other people, so what's it like for the person with dementia, and understands that social relationships are at the heart of what make life worth living, and it's dead simple. Our frontline care staff get it because it's not complicated. They don't have a big policy framework or guidance, they just have these 4 principles to work towards. Congruence and integrity. David Sherge, one of my heroes, said it's not about doing person-centred care, Nick. He says it's about being person-centred, isn't it? So it's about that integrity or authenticity. So you can't do this if you don't believe in it, really. And that's what and what David says, often we employ the wrong sort of people, really. We look at all their skills and their NVQs, not who they are as people. He said, I'm much more interested in interviews. Say, do you chat to the person next to you at the bus stop? I'd be really interested. Do you dance? That's it. So that's one of his questions. And I'll say, well, I know somebody who dances, and in front of a big public. The other thing, that feelings matter most for most of us, for staff, and that's where you look at the emotional supervision of staff. And that's David Sherde's motto for his organisation, Dementia Care Matters. Feelings matter most. And he says that's our motto. He says that's what our staff carry around with them all day. And what you have to do is challenge the classic task-based care which you get in and create moments. And some of this work is, even if you give somebody a piece of toast, I could go into it, but I haven't got time. There are 5 ways of doing that. One, or not doing that, but basically, even those little moments of care tasks can be turned into moments of human connection with another person. And the idea is you create a moment of human contact, not just do the task. So A positive approach to risk. Now, I could spend the entire afternoon talking about this. I don't know if it's what it's like in the world of community development. In the world of health and social care, this has been some of the most damaging work. We had one care that said we couldn't have a fate. I said, why do we have a fate? We can't have fates anymore. I said, we can't have fates. Because somebody might trip over the tombola or something. It's just bizarre, isn't it? Absolutely mad. So, and then we had two, and these are more serious risks. We had and I suppose there are physical safety risks, and then there are emotional safety risks. On the physical one, it was one care home I went in. They said every time somebody falls over in the care home, it gets recorded, and if you get so many people falling over, we get a POVA investigation. In come the social workers, whoom, and they pulverise us. So what we do is keep people. They use that word. They said we pulverise. They said we don't like doing it, but we make people stay in their chairs. They sit in their chairs. So when somebody gets up, we say sit down. Sit down. You go, no, that's just terrible, isn't it? Isn't it atrocious? So we had to deal with that, and we went back to the POVA and said, this is the unintended consequence of the way you're sort of managing that risk. So we're looking at more positive ways of managing falls, working with the sector. And the other one, the superstar, the person who could have come up here and spoke from our frontline care staff, paid very little, but just loves working with people with dementia. She came storming in one day. I was in the meeting and she said, I'd been on this course, a POVA course again it was, and it was about not putting your arms around people to comfort them because you could be grooming them for abuse. So she said, I told them, we're not doing that, we're doing this. And they said, no, you won't, you will stop doing that or we'll report you. So I thought, yes, right, we're going to take this one on. So, and it's just that, and when we went back to the POVA people, they said, well, no, we didn't mean that, it was about inappropriate use of touch. But the message that was getting across was, it's wrong to touch people. Isn't that terrible? And we're saying, so we had to, and what we developed in Swansea, we called it a Cwtch policy, and it was because one of my Welsh-speaking colleagues said, Cwtch is a safe place. So it's actually creating a place of safety. It's not a harmful thing. So the other is around life story work, because older people with dementia or not with dementia, they might have a lot of disability, but one thing they're richer than all of us in is that they have a huge life history. And again, if you tap into that life history and build your support plan around that rather than their care task needs, you'll make a huge difference to their lives. But you must, with people with dementia, match that to their cognitive ability. So it's no good if somebody says, Mrs. Jones likes gardening, so we just give her a spade, because if she doesn't know how to, because if she doesn't know how, she can't sequence the events that mean you pick up the spade and you push, it'll just make her feel bad again about herself. She'll get that anxiety, she'll feel disconnected, she'll probably throw the spade at you, and then you'll say, I'm trying. So you see what I'm getting at, but you've got to match it. And again, our mental health OTs have been superb at that because they've got a methodology and they can match it. So you say, take the life story, match it to functionality, and it's like magic, really. These people sort of come to life, really. It's what they're seeing. We use a lot of creative arts, and again, there's a lovely book by John Zeisel, I'm Still Here, but it talks about dementia from a neurobiology point of view and says that often the amygdala and the emotional, feeling, artistic, creative part of the brain is not affected. It's the rational, scientific bit that's more damaged. So, and this appreciative inquiry approach to quality assurance, and the poor old sector, we don't pay them well, care homes. Social workers go in, nurses go in, everybody goes in and tells them what they're doing wrong. We're trying to turn it around, and in any organisation, even the most rubbish organisation, there's something that's working well. And the other thing is lived experience, and sometimes the quality assurance is all around, have you got the policies in place, are the procedures in place, tick, 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 where's the care plan, how many outcome tick boxes have been done. It's actually, no, let's just focus on the lived experience of the residents. Let's go and sit in there for 2 hours and actually sit there and observe what's going on. So what we found is people's personal is being maintained because of participation. We've actually got people, and this was really encouraging, they actually improve cognitive function, so there's obviously some element of rehabilitation in this. People who needed EMI nursing care, we had a guy who was one-to-one, dead dangerous, came to us. Within a week, he was shopping in Tesco's with the staff. I mean, it's lovely, lovely. Staff who say it's not like coming to work, because again, you get rid of the uniforms, you get rid of all the stuff and the trappings, and you start to sort of try and create family. Family carers who are pulled in rather than pushed away or told to stop sticking their nose in or being awkward or difficult. Final word, and I like this quote from John Zeisel in his book, hands up in the audience if you're trying to help me be all that I can be for as long as I can be. Who wants to help enable me to be as much as I want, as much as I can, as much as I should right now and every tomorrow until the day I die?